Friday is here, last day of the week, but fear not, even though Kyle is not here, he is taking a well-deserved vacation. Coach Shawn and I, we have you covered for all of your Alabama rumors, news. We're going to talk about a little bit of everything today, Coach. We're going to talk recruiting. We're going to talk transfer portal. We're going to talk Michigan. But before we dive into any of that, I'd be remiss. Coach, how are you today?
I'm good. Better than I deserve. Always good. Always good. Even when it's bad, it's still good because it could always be worse, man. Blessed. Blessed.
Love it. 100% coach blessed. And we were blessed yesterday talking about the defensive side of Alabama's early signing class and this recruiting class as a whole. Time ran out on us, and we still have two names that we need to cover today before we jump into the offensive side. That is my fault. Time got away from us. We got a little bit overzealous, excited about some of these prospects, but we saved some great names on the defensive side to jump into today. Coach, I love linebacker play. Talk to me about Quinton Reese, a three-star guy out the state of Alabama. When I turned on his film, it was instantly noticeable to me that this was a guy that was asked to do a lot of coverage in high school and did
hmm
it very well. And that is huge in the modern era. Why do fans need to be excited about Quinton Reese and keeping him home?
Quinton Reese, straight out of Ramsey High School in Birmingham. Definitely what we call a 2023 type linebacker. As you notice, this kid is not 6'3", he's not 230, right? He's not your Reggie Raglins or your Reuben Fosters. These kids that they're recruiting now are hybrid guys, guys that can play coverage, guys that can pass rush, guys that will come up and thump you, right? Think kids maybe 6 foot, 210, 205, 210 in that range. Perfect frame to add weight to, right? Kid that can easily drop back in coverage, easily cover the middle of the field, easily break to the sideline. Just another one of these hybrid guys that can play middle linebacker, outside linebacker, can play in the secondary if need be, right? Is nimble and athletic, and is smart enough to drop back in coverage. And that's really his strong point. The kid can run, right? Kid understands coverage. One of those kids that'll come into the program, work extremely hard, add a few pounds here or there, and they'll place him squarely in coverage. Let him learn the system, learn the pass principles, learn leverage at the college level. And another one of these kids that'll be spot on and ready to go.
And it's like the inside linebacker play for Alabama continues to be a strong suit. I mean, when I look at it this year, we knew what we were going to get from Deontay Lawson, or at least I
hmm
think we knew what we were going to get. We thought he would be an exceptional player, and guess what? Turned out to be an exceptional player. But you look at a
hmm
Jahad Campbell and what he allows, Coach. I think that is perfectly in line with what you're talking about, the athleticism
Yeah,
of some of these guys. People need to remember Jahad Campbell came to the Tide as a five-star edge guy, as many of the recruiting
outside guy.
services had him.
Facts.
They
All
moved him
facts, man.
inside. Story is real, right? That kid
hmm
is unbelievable, but that's the versatility coach is speaking about right there, ladies and gentlemen. That is what is so coveted, not only at the defensive back position, but at the linebacker position. I told you all yesterday about that book that I was reading a while ago that highlighted Saban has been on the cutting edge of defense since before he was a head coach, when he was just a defensive backs coach in the Big Ten. He saw where this was moving, which is why he's able to adapt. And before we get into our secondary guy, before we jump into offense, I have something to ask of everybody in chat. Thank you for joining us today. So happy to be here with you. As Coach said
Exactly.
earlier, absolutely blessed. Drop us a roll tide, a fire emoji, or an elephant emoji if you are floored, over the moon with what this Alabama coaching staff and Nick Saban did on early signing day. And if you still have some guys you want, drop them down in the comments. We might sit here and talk about it if time allows. Really interested in hearing from all of you. You make this show exactly what it is. Now, Coach, I'm going to give you the floor on this one. You yesterday so eloquently were talking about the defensive back recruits that Alabama got, and you thought this was the best defensive back haul in the nation. A lot of other teams did great work on the trail. I think I have to agree with you. What Alabama did was sneaky good. Jamir Grimsley, talk to us about him, Coach, because we just got done talking about versatility. I don't know if there's a player that's more synonymous with versatility than Jamir Grimsley. Why is he such an exciting player?
Listen, I'll tell anybody about Jamir. This kid, Jamir's got to be 6'2", 6'3", taller kid. I think he's around 6'2", 6'3", maybe even 6'3". This kid is probably 185, 190, somewhere along in there. The kid can play offense, man. He may possibly have had a better offensive tape than defense, right? But if the kid is good enough to play defense as well. Very, Coach Saban loves those rangy guys, those Drake Kirkpatrick-esque type guys who have a little height on them, a little bit of size, in their first or second year. Kid that's very, very good in coverage, kid that will come up and smack you, kid that will catch that thing, and take it to the house easily. So it's going to be exciting to see where they play him as well. But that goes to my point yesterday. That's another kid that could possibly play in the secondary. I love these kids that are good enough to play on both sides of the ball, whose highlight tape always shows their versatility on both sides of the ball. A kid like that with great height, they're going to be very, very, very pressured to put him on the offensive side of the ball, to let him go up and catch that thing. But at the same time, kid that's tall enough, big enough, and skilled enough to play on the defensive side of the ball as well. Jamir Grimsley is one of those kids that both of the offensive and defensive coaches are going to fight over him. Trust me.
And that's a great situation to have. Ladies and gentlemen, before we went live, as soon as Coach got in the green room, the first thing I said to him after our good mornings was, Coach, we have a problem. Now, it's a good problem, but we have a problem. What do you do with this kid? Because what Coach said, what I noticed is his highlight tape started on huddle, and he's showing his ability as a wide receiver, separating from defenders, high pointing the ball, running away from them. And I'm thinking, man, this kid's so good as a wide receiver. I wonder what he looks like as a defensive back. The first play I see him as a defensive back, he is taking some poor child's soul. That was a child of God that he hit like that. This kid right here has got supreme ability. Coach, one of the things I said to you that really stood out to me, because I wasn't, I wasn't born 6'5" with unbelievable athletic ability. I was just born with an ability to speak. And unfortunately for my wife, that was the case. But when I watched Jamir Grimsley, he's kind of a wiry frame. Talk to us about the want to that he has, because that's what stood out to me. Him putting his body out there, laying the wood like that, but not being some kid that's like just yacked out of high school. Talk to us about that mentality.
Listen, when you're it's not that the kid is small, he's just tall,
Yes.
The kid, when you look at him, he looks extremely wiry, right? But that's because the kid has a lot of height on him. This kid could be could be closer to 6'4" than 6'2". He's got to be around 6'3" maybe. I would have to say taller kid, right? So when you see these kids with a smaller frame with height like that, for him to come up and lay the wood like that on bigger kids, thicker kids, the want to has to be inside of him. That dog is inside of that young man. I see now why Georgia came on to this kid late. They was trying extremely hard to flip this kid late, and Florida State and Florida were definitely on his heels, nipping at his heels, especially Florida, right? Offering crazy NIL deals. A lot of schools wanted this kid. A lot of schools, Michigan wanted this kid, Ohio State wanted this kid. So for this young man to have that type of height, that type of frame, and not be afraid to come up and punish ball carriers, punish wide receivers, and flip it around on the offense to go up and high point the ball, to just throw it up and he go get it. This kid's the ultimate athlete. So you definitely right about that 1,000%, Ty. The want to is definitely in this young man.
That's something you can't teach. Right? Like you as a coach, you can teach that technique. You can get them in the weight room. They either want to go out there and be great or you don't. And I think that's something that blows me away about what Alabama does. We were talking yesterday about Kayvon Thibodeau and how he knew Alabama's pitch wasn't for him. And I was perfectly fine with that. Why? Because he didn't have that innate want to that a guy like Will Anderson had, where Will's like, I don't care if you put a brick wall in front of me, I'm running through it. That's what Nick Saban in Alabama wants. Now, that's not to take away from Kayvon Thibodeau. He is unbelievably gifted. But it's what are you looking for? And Alabama has a supreme ability to find what they're looking for. Now, Coach, before we pass it to the offensive side, we have a question here from the Man Cave 1976. And I think this is a good one. He says, is LT Overton really that guy? I need more tape. Coach, if I may, I'd like to quickly say something about this, then pass it to you. One thing the Man Cave I would remember about LT Overton, he reclassified. He enrolled at Texas A&M and started playing when he should have been a senior in high school. right? Like he should have been worrying about who he was going to take to prom. Instead, he's worrying about which future first round offensive lineman he has in front of him in the SEC. So I understand. A lot of people thought his production would be much more than it was, but he basically just got done with his quote unquote freshman year at Texas A&M. Guys, we have to remember, and coach, this is where I'll pass it to you. The size, speed, strength, technique on that inside the trenches, both offensive line and defensive line, the difference in what it takes to succeed at the high school level and college level, you might as well be playing two different sports.
It's a fact.
Their strength and conditioning coach left, Coach Shawn. Texas A&M's did when Brent Venables got to OU. That was a big hit, in my opinion, to Texas A&M. And I think we started to see that. How excited are you about LT Overton? Because personally, I was elated when Alabama got him out the transfer portal.
I'm extremely excited about this young man. I warned him out of high school. Here's the thing that we need to know about LT. $5 super chat while we're talking from the Inquisitive Prince. Coach, will you explain to the UGA fans bragging that they have the #1 recruiting class that Coach Saban recruits for a specific player to fit Bama? That's 100% facts, Inquisitive. I'll get to that. Give me 1 second and I'll hop right back on you, Inquisitive. As far as LT, the one thing that like we touched on yesterday, I think Texas A&M used him wrong, right? This kid came out of high school. He was about 275, right? Out of high school, 265, 275 on the high side of pushing 280. They made the kid lose all of that weight. Kid lost all of that weight, and they tried to turn him into Dallas Turner, right? They only let him put his hand on the ground on third downs. They tried to stand him up on early downs, right? Tried to turn him into something he wasn't, right? I don't think he's quick like that. He's more a DN, a true DN, right? Kids that could play the 3 to 5 technique. So Bama's going to add that weight. When he was at Bama just a few weeks ago, I was told he was like 255, 260. So Bama's going to put that good weight back on him. The kid's natural frame is about 275 or 280. Wouldn't shock me at all. By the time the season gets here, he's pushing that again, right? With the sports science and resources that Alabama has, putting weight on this kid won't be a problem at all. Not on that frame. So for this kid to come to Bama and for him to line up when we start back out in August and September, when these kids come in July early and, get him on that weight program, for this kid to play at about 275, he's going to be a monster. I think LT, if you ask me, LT has the skills to walk right into our defensive system, which I think fits him better, and start to be that Justin Ebogbe, but add a little bit more pass rush. I don't know if he's going to start off being as physical as Justin was, but this kid will definitely be more of a pass rusher and help put some pressure on the other side of the ball. As far as Inquisitive, like we touched on yesterday, Inquisitive, let them brag about that all day. They had on the high side of 30 recruits, like 27, 28 recruits, right? They should have a better class. They had a couple more people than we did, right? So it's okay. The difference in class 1 and class 2, you're splitting hairs, man. Like you're splitting hairs big time. The difference in 2 to 3, you're splitting hairs, especially when you look at the overall ranking percentage of the classes. They're very close. So let them brag about that. We don't have to brag. We won the SEC. They're at home watching us.
Coach, I couldn't have said it better myself. Inquisitive. Listen, that's why you asked the question to Coach, because Georgia did sign a great class. Getting that flip was huge. As much as Georgia signed a great class, and their fans should be excited about the talented young men they have coming into that building who will help them continue trying to push towards success, Bama fans, you need to be just as excited. Because I'd take Bama's class against anybody's class in the nation, as should Georgia fans. They should feel the same way. But Coach, you absolutely nailed that answer. Now, we have a lot of people asking about the possibility of Evan Stewart, and we're going to transition over to the offense. With so many people asking about Evan Stewart, Coach, I think it's only right that we start talking on the offensive side about the wide receivers Alabama has gotten. And we'll start it with Evan Stewart. Do you expect him to be added into the transfer portal acquisition list for the Crimson Tide? What are your thoughts with Evan Stewart?
You know what, man? In my humble opinion, I don't know if Evan Stewart would be at Bama. I was told that it was some, I don't want to use the word friction, but I was told that it was some doubt from his family. Like I said yesterday, I didn't realize that his brother was a DB that played at Bama. I forgot his name. Maurice. Was it no, was it Maurice Stewart? I can't remember, but his brother played here, DB, transferred to Georgia, and it was a lot of mess behind that. And from what I hear, his mother was it rubbed the family wrong, I suppose. And but that's not to say Coach Saban won't go in and smooth things over and get that young man, right? If the young man is serious about his future, he knows a program like Alabama can only enhance what he brings to the table. With this NIL day we live in, a lot of things can be fixed with with a couple of George Washingtons, couple of Benjamins, right? So, you know, I don't really know the ins and outs of that. I'm not sure what's really going on with that, but I'm pretty positive Alabama will be in play for him if he goes in the transfer portal 100% and makes himself available. Because a talent like that, you almost have to kick the tires on that. You have to, no matter what's happened in the past or things of that nature. But I don't really have any information on whether he'll have Alabama as his top, but you should be able to find out here pretty soon because his time is ticking, right? So I hope we get a talent like that. If we don't, God bless the young man. We have great receivers on the roster now that I'm excited about, right? So either way, I think it's a win for Bama. Whether we get the young man or whether we don't, I think we're in good shape right now and could pop Maurice Smith. That's it. I'm sorry. Thank you, JC. And shout out to Travelpreneur Sports Podcast. Shout out to Al Sanders. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Roll Tide to you all. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not sure. I hear things from different people down there, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting the next couple of weeks to see what Evan does. He can only know that he could add value to himself and to this roster by coming to Bama. Shout out to Katrina Blackman as well.
Yeah, I think, Coach, that was Anais Smith for A&M, the wide receiver whose brother was at Alabama and then transferred, and that's why he always had that bad blood towards Alabama.
Yeah. I kept telling about these receivers, and I didn't know which one was which, and they kept telling me, I'm like, his brother played at Bama. What brother? I don't even remember a brother that was played at Bama.
Well, they were both at Texas A&M, and in terms of skill set, they do have, like we talked about yesterday, that Venn diagram. They do have a skill set that does intertwine. I'm going to tell y'all why Evan Stewart would be a huge win for Alabama, and also why I would understand if he didn't come. Now, I'm from Texas. I'm sitting right here in beautiful Denton, Texas right now, not at Rudy's Barbecue today, though. Shout out to Rudy's. If you're ever in the area, stop at Rudy's, because when I was in a pickle, they said you can come on in here and record all day. Just, give us a shout out. They were awesome. I got to watch him coach whenever he wasn't even a 5-star yet. He was a 4-star. I went down to the 7-on-7 and I watched him do dastardly things to anybody they put in front of him. I got home and made a video, and you can still find it over on my channel. It's probably 2 years old. It's right when I started doing YouTube. And I was like, this is the number 1 receiver in the nation. This is a 5-star wide receiver. Well, Texas ended up getting him. And in that Texas video, I was saying, hey, they just got them one. I think Evan Stewart has got a phenomenal skill set, and I don't think college football has even seen him scratch the surface of what he's able to do, because I think that Jimbo Fisher offense, let's be honest, Coach, how nice do we want to be? If I'm trying to be really nice, it was incompetent, right? That Jimbo Fisher offense, and not necessarily all Jimbo's fault. How many quarterback injuries did he have? But they just couldn't get it together. Yeah. Evan Stewart is a guy that would make anybody's wide receiver room better. But, Coach, I'm going to tell you why I wouldn't be surprised. And then I want to hear your thoughts on this. One, you already touched on it. The wide receivers Alabama has. Let's not forget Jalen Hale now. That kid's going to be a star. Let's not forget Kendrick Law. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot. But also, Coach, let's talk about 3 names in this class right here. Aaron Hampton, a late flip. So I don't have a tweet that has his stats on here. But let's talk about 3 names. In between Ryan Williams, you have 72 catches, 1,300 yards, 19 touchdowns from this past season. Amari Jefferson, 74 catches, 1,400 yards, 20 touchdowns. Rico Scott, 86 catches, 1,300 yards, 23 touchdowns. Coach, that's a lot of production at wide receiver. So even if Alabama doesn't land Evan Stewart, right? This wide receiver class is insane, Coach. Am I crazy in thinking this is my favorite wide receiver class Bama has signed since that one that included Ruggs, Smith, and Jerry Jeudy. Is that crazy to say?
No, it's not at all. When you look at the production these young men had in high school, the playmaking they made in high school, I'll take one from my partner Coach Smook's page, Rico Scott. That kid go up and I had to go educate myself to Rico. Man, that kid. A lot of these kids, when they don't camp a lot, they don't get the stars, right? Rico Scott could possibly be one of the best receivers in the nation, right? You hear so much about the Jeremiah kid that went to Ohio State. I didn't see anything different in him and Rico. Just he's a little taller. The kid who went to Ohio State is a little taller. Rico will go get that thing just like that. So no, you're not out of pocket by saying that at all. When you look at the production that these kids are bringing, you add Ryan Williams into that. All the kids on here that could possibly play on the offensive side of the ball, man. You add that with what's already on the roster, man. Listen, the truth is in the details, right? And we won't be suffering at all. So no, you hit the nail right on the head with that.
And I know everyone's talking about Ryan Williams, Coach. You and Smook. Shout out to Smook because he was on Rico Scott real early.
Yeah.
Amari Jefferson is one that when I watched, I was just sitting back and I was like, I'm not saying this is who he's going to be, but in terms of just like naming a player, that way we can visualize the type of skill set he has. Once again, not a comparison. I'm just trying to give you a thought process on that Deebo Samuel type guy, where it's just like, hey, I can beat everybody. If you line me up out there, you can put me outside, inside, or you can use me as a gadget guy. However you need, just get me the ball. That's the Kendrick Law, Amari Jefferson, where this year the staff looked at Kendrick Law and said, you're too good not to get the ball. We just got to find a way to get you the ball. I think Amari Jefferson's going to be that same type guy, Coach, where the staff looks at him and says, how can we get you the ball? He's also not a small guy. Isn't he 6 foot, like 200 pounds? I mean, he's a built up guy. Now, only one of them hasn't put pen to paper, as I understand it, and that's Ryan Williams. We're going to be watching for Ryan Williams. Alabama's obviously going to keep recruiting Ryan Williams because Auburn is ferociously after him, not to mention Texas, as we have a $3 super chat from Duke Go to 2020. Thank you so much for the donation, Duke. He says, Duke. What offensive transfers are we targeting? We just got done talking, Duke, about Evan Stewart. If you came in a little bit late, Evan Stewart is a guy Alabama has recruited in the past. He has the relationship with Holloman Wiggins, and Terry and Arnold even said not too long ago he thought Evan Stewart would be joining them in Tuscaloosa. Now, Coach and I both agree. Evan Stewart is a guy that makes your roster instantly better, but we also need to recognize what Alabama signed in this wide receiver class, and that's where we are right now, Duke, talking about Rico Scott, who had over 1,300 yards of production, Amari Jefferson over 1,400 yards, Ryan Williams over 1,300 yards. That's not to even speak on Aaron Hampton and Jamir Grimsley, who's a defensive back in this class, but if need be, can go over to that offensive side and tear it up.
Yep.
Coach Ryan Williams, this is the guy everybody wants to hear about, right? This is the guy that, in my opinion, and this is crazy to say, he's a top 12 player in the nation after reclassifying, and I still think he's underrated being there. I think he's a top 7 player, honestly. Talk to us about Ryan Williams, Coach.
Listen, I hate comparing players. I'm kind of like Coach Saban on that. I hate saying, well, he's like such and such, but I'm almost compelled to do it right now. If you go watch Devontae Smith's high school tape, all-star tape, Army all-star game tape, and look at Ryan's, all but the braids, I promise you, it looks like you're looking at the same kid. Size, stature, cuts, in and out of breaks, going to get the ball, long stride, speed, high pointing the ball, everything. It's like watching Devontae all over again. Now, by no stretch am I saying he'll be Devontae, but what I am saying is at this point in their careers, at Devontae's high school level, their tape is almost identical, right? Very identical, man. Ryan has the potential to be the next great one, right? I think he'll need a little more weight. I think the offense he played in didn't call for him to block much. So you're going to have that learning curve, but I'll tell anybody this: the running back position, the wide receiver position are two of your most easy transitions in college football. The running back position, everybody seems to struggle with pass pro. with that conversion from high school to college. The wide receiver position, everybody sort of struggles with getting off press coverage. It's a difference in running by a defensive back in high school, but it's a difference in putting somebody like Terrion Arnold in front of you. It's a little different, even for the most talented high school wide receivers. If you remember, guys, Devontae Smith's first year, as good as he was, he only had like 9 catches the whole year. Now, he had one in the game against Georgia that was the biggest catch of the year, but he didn't have a lot of production because you still have that learning curve of high school to college, even though it's a small one from those positions. So I think Ryan will be just fine. Come in, get in a college weight room program, learn the finer nuances of stepping on toes and things of that nature, the little fundamentals that they teach wide receivers at the college position. And I think Ryan has the potential to take off, right? Look for Ryan to get in there early and make some plays. So yeah, you're 1,000% right, Ty.
One thing you said, Coach, that I love talking about these transitions, and this is something I hint on whenever I talk about trench play. But this is what I always say. Ryan Williams and, like, for instance, LT Overton. These guys in high school, you could be watching their huddle film and LT Overton has me blocking him. Well, he's going to run right through me and sack the quarterback, right? Ryan Williams could be on the outside and have me in press coverage. Well, you might as well just go ahead and raise your hand, right? Like, he's going to. So that's why, Coach, I love that you bring that up, because it's easy to sit there and watch film and we can talk about all the good things they do, but this might as well be a different sport. We're talking, there's no baseline athleticism in high school football. God forbid they could have me starting out there. In college, there's a baseline athleticism, or at least in theory, there's a baseline athlete. In the SEC, there's a baseline athleticism. Love it. Now, Duke asks a follow-up question, Duke, and I do want to get to this because I think I misinterpreted the extent of your question. Duke says, I was here. I meant other offensive transfers, line, etc. Thank you. I floated this early, Duke. Coach, I'm interested in hearing this for you. Now, I don't know of anything. This is just me giving my opinion. Center is somewhere I'd watch because I don't know what McLaughlin's going to do, right? Like, and if a good center enters the transfer portal, goodness gracious me, they don't grow on trees, right? Like, great centers don't grow on trees. Anywhere else on offense, Coach, you think Alabama could look? Because I don't think there's a whole lot of needs. That offense was pretty young.
With the tight ends they have coming in with versatility tight end, we have offensive linemen on top of offensive linemen now. I think that is a good thing. Casey Poe, he can play center. This young man is very powerful in the run game. His lower body frame and his pass set is impeccable. A lot of highlight tape of him playing guard, right? Some even playing tackle. From what I'm hearing, I think Al Sanders hit the nail on the head. I think I'm hearing they're going to try to get T. Ferg in there, Terrence Ferguson at center. They worked him some there this past season when he came off of injury. That's going to be that's going to be interesting, man, to see what happens. I know they still have James Brockermeyer. I looked at Brockermeyer and he's extremely small, right? By today's standards for center. I think he's only like 285, maybe, and a little shorter, maybe 6'2", 6'3". So he's very small, right? But if the kid can play, put him in there. Because center is different. You got to call out the protections. You got to set the protections. You got to find the mic. The center position is the quarterback of the offensive line, right? If your center doesn't know what the hell he's doing, you're going to be in trouble from the outset, from hike. Trust me. So that's why you see a lot of centers, very smart young men, very young men who played center before, who understand the finer nuances of playing that position, because you got to have a smart center. You got to have a strong center. Just as to win anything else, if your center of anything is weak, the whole enchilada is weak. So center is a very important position and very interesting to see what we do there in the future.
100%. We have a $20 donation from TB Speaks Life. Thank you so much, TB. He says, good show. We need beef. Defensive line, big defensive line. You're not going to find an argument from me, my man. He said, we should have a lot of returning production, but if we want to make a run, it's offensive line and defensive line, and definitely defensive line for next year. I just don't think you can ever over-recruit the offensive line and defensive line, Coach. Like, I don't know if it's possible, especially in the transfer portal era. I just don't know if it's possible. Speaks, I couldn't agree more. Now, Coach, before we start talking about the offensive line and some great signees, there's one more player in that wide receiver acquisition class. I just want to pass it to you because you hopped in the green room this morning, and this was the first name you dropped to me. Aaron Hampton from the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Talk to me
Yes.
about why you're so excited about this young man.
Listen, I challenge anyone to go look up Aaron Hampton's tape. It's going to remind you of Jalen Waddle. Now, I'm not saying he will be Waddle, right? Shout out to my boy Jan Sports. Jance, man, Jance. Anybody ask Coach Jarek about this young man, right? Ask Coach Jarek about this guy. Jarek can break it down like no other, man. Arian Hampton is absolutely outstanding. The kid could play anywhere. Another one of those kids we've been talking about that could play anywhere. I'm so selfish, bro. I'm so selfish. I gotta have him on offense. Please, Coach Saban, put that young man on offense because that man is lightning in a bottle when he get the ball in his hands. Everybody go watch that man's huddle tape. Go watch his highlights. That kid get the ball in his hands, man. It's like watching lightning just go. He's a threat. That's the best way I can sum this young man up. He is a threat. Straight up there. JG, what's going on? Roll Tide to you, man. I remember this kid in the beginning of the season. We were on him hard, right? I think he ended up committing to Texas or whatever the case may be early. I think he had a good relationship with Jeff Banks, I think it was. Then one of those, the guy that used to be at Alabama. And
Hey,
man, it broke my heart, bro. I really wanted this young man. We need kids like that. You know, the kids Isaiah Bonish, but this kid seems like his vertical may be slightly better. I'm not sure about that, Isaiah, if you're watching, but on film, this kid is, you know, you got to have kids like that. The more Isaiah Bond type kids you can have, the more threat you have, the more weapons for the quarterback position, right? Jalen Milrose coming back into his final year next year to add these type weapons. Can you imagine if we get somebody like Evan Stewart and have Arian Hampton and Milrow? Like what you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do? I gotta get my
flag
Hulk
on the
Hogan
play.
on. Yeah, get
Yeah.
my Hulk
Flag.
Hogan on. What you gonna do? Like, what are you going to do, man, with that type of talent? So for me, you know, Arian Hampton has to stay on offense to me. Now they may put him on defense. I don't know, but I would love to see this young man with the ball in his hands.
I think he's going to be on offense, Coach, because you
Hmm.
want to know who he reminded me a little bit of. Someone who I think Saban was sad to see go. Aaron Anderson,
Aaron,
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I think when you heard Saban talk about Aaron Hampton, he said he's a dog. Coach, what did
yeah.
he say about Aaron Anderson and Kendrick Law when they first came? That was the first thing he said about them. He said some guys just have that mental ability that knows I might not be with the first string yet, but I'm going to
Yeah.
push to where I'm there. He said that's the
Mhm.
dog. He was talking about Law and Aaron Anderson. Like, I'm so excited about Aaron Hampton. I couldn't agree more. When he flipped, I was over the moon. He's going to
Yeah.
find a place on this team. I have no doubt about that. Let's get into the big boys, Coach. The big meat of the offensive line. Casey Poe coming to Alabama, the number one guard in the nation. He is not alone. You also have William Sanders, who Alabama keeps home, and Joseph
Yeah.
Ionata, who I must admit, I love Joseph Ionata's
Yeah.
film. Love all their film, but Ionata, that kid plays with a violent intent that I love
Yes.
for my offensive line. Coach, 3 additions in this offensive line class, but I think one thing I want people to remember, Coach Walford has hit the trail real hard. Bama signed a phenomenal offensive line class last year that just didn't get to play outside of Proctor. What do you think about this year's offensive line haul in connection with last year's offensive line haul?
I think these kids are going to be on the interior. Now they have the talent to play tackle. You know, Casey Poe's around 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", and I think Joseph might be 6'4", 6'5". I definitely think Will be on the inside. Will is I watched him in the All-Star game against Mississippi. Very strong in the run game. Very thick pass set. Very. You could definitely tell he's been playing guard for a while. I'm sure in high school they probably had a kid of his size playing every position on the offensive line at some point. But I do believe in in college, Will would be on the inside. It's going to be interesting to see where they put Casey at, center or guard. I think Joseph would be a guard as well. I think we recruited a lot of tackles last year with Aileen and Wilkin Formby and all those long kids that play tackle. When you play tackle, you have to be a bit of a better athlete, right? You got to have long arms. You got to have that long torso, because tackle, you're out there on an island by yourself going against most of your better pass rushers. When you play tackle, people sometimes don't understand the difference. Guard is a trench warfare position, right? It's almost, guard, all your blitzes are coming from the inside. You have to be really, really strong in the run game on the interior, right? Tackle, you almost have to be an athlete. That's why a lot of tight ends who get oversized and eat too much end up becoming tackles. They want your tackle to be a best athlete, because a lot of times you're going to be out on an island in a pass set in pass pro against one of their best athletes coming off the edge full speed. So you got to be able to get out there and attack the man. That's the difference in tackle and guard. That's what Caden struggled with in the beginning of the season, until he could get his timing down, pass set down, hand placement down, footwork down. But guard, I think Will would be on the guard. I think Joseph would be at guard, but I think Casey Poe could play guard or center. I think this kid is a little more versatile. All these kids are road graders. They'll move you, all of them, right? And always remember, guys, when you come from high school, very rarely do you see young men on the offensive line coming from high school to college that don't struggle with pass pro, that don't play a little high. That's just normal coming from high school, right? Even the greats, Andre Smith, all the tackles we've had, Jedrick Wills, all these guys, Leatherwood, when they came from high school to college, they struggle with playing high, right? So don't be fooled by that. They'll work with these kids when they get in college, and I think they'll have a great career. These were the beef inside, the interior. I think the beef outside was recruited last year. So the future looks extremely bright.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you guys just witnessed was, I don't know if y'all are basketball fans, but I don't know if you remember when LeBron went to the Miami Heat. There's that iconic play wherever Dwayne Wade was dribbling up the court and he just threw it and almost did the airplane thing, and LeBron came behind him and caught the oop. That's what just happened. What I was hoping we would go with that is exactly where you went with it. The fact that Alabama signed such great interior talent this class, and that's why I connected it with last class, because I think the outside talent was evident last class. I think you have several guys that can play. We just had an oops situation, and I want it to be known to everybody in this chat. We did not plan this. There was no script levied today. We just came in here and said, we're going to talk about the offense, and we're out here making plays like the big three. Shout out to Kyle. Shout out to Smook. Shout out to Coach Jay. The remaining of the team not here, but 2 of the 5 out here throwing oops and dunks to each other, having a great time. Coach, I couldn't have set it up any better myself. Everything he just said, ladies and gentlemen, if you have pen, if you have paper, run it back, take some notes. He just dropped some game on you. Love that. We've talked about the wide receivers. We've talked about the beef. Where should we go now, Coach? Should we go to tight end? I think that's probably the most natural transition, right? I mean, we've talked about the big guys. We've talked about the wide receivers. Let's talk about the hybrids. Tight end, Caleb Odom, Jay Lindsay, and these two have different skill sets. Now, one thing you and I talked about yesterday, Coach, and I can't remember if we were live or not, if we were in the green room, is differentiating skill sets at the wide receiver position can cause nightmares for defenses. For instance, if you have a bunch of slot guys out there, I mean, that might be hell for a defense because they can run good routes. They're crafty, they're fast, they're quick. But if you have a true number 1 out there that's a possession receiver that you got to worry about, you got a burner at your number 2, and then your slot guy's crafty, well, now the defense has to account for everything that you could want to throw at them.
Right.
I feel that way, Coach, about Caleb Odom and Jay Lindsay, because I feel like both of them have the ability to be dangerous, but in different capacities. Let's start with Caleb Odom. Comes in per the 24/7 Sports Composite just outside of 5-star range at number 47 overall in the nation, the number 2 tight end in all of high school football, and a top 10 player in the state of Georgia, a state absolutely lambasted with talent. Why is this such a big addition, Coach? Am I wrong for being as excited as I am about Caleb Odom and what he could do in a Reese offense?
Nah, you're dead spot on, Ty. I tell people this. With Caleb, this kid is probably 6'5", 215, 220. He's light. He may not even be 220, about 210, 215, right? This kid's just a bigger wide receiver. Now he's not gonna block anything yet, right? They didn't ask him to do a lot of that. They split him out at the wide receiver. The kid played all the wide receiver positions. He played the tight end and the X and the Y. He played everything. And the Z. He played everything if you watch him. They lined him up everywhere, inside, outside, slot, everywhere, right? You got to have kids like Caleb Odom, like Amari Niblack. These are going to be your kids down the road that get matched up on a lot of linebackers, a lot of safeties at times, right? These kids will win those one-on-one battles easy peasy, right? This kid is 6'4", basketball player, go up and get that thing. I think this kid coming out of high school, to me, is even more polished than Amari Niblack was. This kid is a straight route runner. I watched this kid run a dig, and I was like, whoa, right? They had him and another young man run a high-low route, and he was the low route, the tallest guy. And I couldn't believe this kid coming in and out of his breaks like he did, dropping his weight. I couldn't believe that kid. I'm like, this kid's 6'5". So, man, to get Caleb Odom was huge. Trust me, that young man, and it's difficult because in Alabama's offense, you have to be able to block, right? For them to play you full time. I think Amari is just now getting that physicality to block. He got roughed up a little bit in blocking schemes, right? So I think Amari is just now getting his feet under him and understanding how to play tight end. And I tell young kids all the time here at JC, don't get so enamored with catching passes, right? If you're playing tight end, because in NFL, you have to be able to block. Even the greatest tight ends, even Travis Kelce, even Kittle, all these young men can block as well. They don't take them off the field on the run plays and put them on the field on the pass plays. You got to be able to be a complete tight end to play at the University of Alabama. So those skills will come to Caleb in time, but the pass catching is not a worry. As far as Lindsay, man, listen, this kid, believe it or not, I know this may sound crazy, he may be a more well-rounded tight end already. Not saying he's the athlete Caleb is, but this kid can block and catch right now. Now, he's not going to burn you with 4.4 speed and go up in one hand, catch it, and dunk backwards with his eyes closed and tie his shoes all while he's in the air. He's not going to do any of that, right? But if you're looking for a kid to go across the middle and catch the ball, good, sure hands, and a kid that will line up in 12 personnel and put you on your back, he's it. This kid can do both. If you watch his film, he did both. He can catch and he's physical in the run game, right? As an inline tight end, he's physical, man. This kid is very, very physical. He gets both of his feet under him. His leverage is good. He comes off the ball with a hat on a hat. He understands turning. He understands if the play is coming behind me, turn the guy this way, turn the guy that way. So that tells you he understands blocking schemes. So he may be a more well-rounded tight end at this point in their career, but Caleb Odom is definitely by far the best athlete. It's like you said, that's what you call those good kind of problems.
We love good problems, Coach. We love to have good problems. You're always going to have problems in life. This is a truth we all need to accept. Let's make them good problems. Let's keep it on that. Coach, there's one thing from an outside perspective I have to ask very quickly, because I've always operated under a theory that tight ends right now, if I was a defensive coordinator, that would be a position that would keep me up at night. Is if you have a guy like an Amari Niblack, for instance, he's too big and strong for defensive backs, but he's too fast for your linebackers. Those guys would keep me up with nightmares at night. And I think Caleb Odom is one of them. As a coach, do you think that's an accurate depiction of like the modern era? Is if you get one of those tight ends that have the ability to do everything and be a receiver threat like a Caleb Odom, like a Brock Bowers for Georgia, Travis Kelce, how tough is that for defensive coaches to account for?
Man, that's exceptionally tough. And I'll tell you where it's the most tough at with the personnel that we have. Coach Jay is a master at this. Draw up 13 personnel in the red zone, right? Unbalanced line with Caleb Odom and Amari Niblack in the lineup, inside. How are you going to defend that? Like, who are you going to put on that to defend those guys, right? A safety, that's a win for us. A corner, you're going to go, that's a win for us. A linebacker, coming across the field, mesh route, that's a win for us, right? So you're spot on. You're spot on, man. Coach Mook and Coach Jay, they're very good at breaking those kind of situations down. And I got to take a hat from those guys. Yeah, The personnel that we have right now at that tight end position and the versatility that we have. You want some guys that'll block and knock your head off? We have them. Oots, we have them. You want some guys that'll line up and put your defense in a precarious situation, trying to cover them? We have them. You know what I mean? So it's one of those good kind of problems. So you're straight on base with that, Ty. I couldn't have said it better myself.
That's a reason why, Coach, the tight end position, I get so excited in modern offenses. The tight ends, Alabama has been able to recruit Danny Lewis, Amari Niblack, Jay Lindsay,
Yep.
Caleb Odom. I am so excited because I think Alabama fans are about to be real happy, and especially if we can keep Reese, pitch to him, hey, learn under the GOAT, and you will get far greater opportunities. I know Indiana was looking at him. You give the GOAT 4 years at your young age, Indiana is not going to be calling you. You're going to have major brands calling you.
That's a fact.
Coach Reese.
Let me say this too before you get off that, Ty. Robbie Oots, to me, that's my guy, man. Look, Robbie Oots will be drafted. You watch. Robbie Oots will be one of those kids that'll go into the NFL and play 14 years, right? Because he's such a versatile Army switch knife. Guy can play tight end, guy can play H-back, guy can catch passes, guy can block, guy can catch the short routes. I mean, this kids like that who don't flash on film is what the NFL love. They love those kids like that that'll play special teams, that'll line up in sub package and can just do whatever they want to do, right? So when you come to Alabama and you show those type of skills and you put out good tape, and the kids don't understand today, it's not about how much tape you have. It's about what you do when you get on tape, because these guys cut film up, right? They cut it up, they watch. They don't care that you scored a touchdown on this play. They want to know, what did you do from play to play to play to play? Did you take plays off? Are you putting forth great effort? Cutting the tape up and watching these kids. Robbie Oots is the classic example of a kid that you don't hear a lot about, does a lot of the dirty work, but a kid that the NFL love kids like that.
Love that, Coach. And you're 100% right. Robbie Oots is such a weapon to this team and everything that he offers. 2 more players on the offensive side, Coach, and then we're going to talk us some Michigan. And we might go over a little bit over an hour today, Coach, if you have a little bit of time. That way we can give the people a good conversation on Michigan. We have the quarterback, Julian Sayin. We have the running back, Kevin Riley. Let's start with Kevin Riley. Alabama flips him from Miami, keeps him home to give them a running back in this class, to the surprise of nobody. We know Nick Saban likes keeping running backs. Coach, something you and I were talking about in the green room is that coming to Alabama as a running back, there's a luxury to this, in that Alabama has such a loaded running back room that whenever we look 4 years in the future, 3 years in the future, we know what these NFL draft scouts do. They devalue players that they can try and get the best value pick at the best draft spot. If you can draft a guy that you believe has second round talent in the 4th round, you're winning as the guy that's working for your team. You mix that with how they already do running backs, where they devalue you. Coach and I were talking in the green room that Alabama offers a luxury of saying, look at a Josh Jacobs. You can be a running back by committee, give us 1 year, and the NFL is going to come calling, and you will have a long, lucrative career there. Coach, how excited are you about Kevin Riley?
Extremely excited. I wanted Kevin Riley, right? It came down to Kevin Riley and I forgot the young kid that went to Florida.
Jaden Baugh.
Jaden Baugh, that's his name. Give me Kevin Riley. One, the kid is from the area, right? So he understands the pressures of playing Alabama football, right? The kid is right here in the backyard. It just don't seem logical for you to go 15 hours to Miami, right? Just don't seem logical. The kid looks like B-Rob when you see him holding the ball with both hands, coming through the line of scrimmage, right? But he has a little bit more burst. This kid has a little bit more burst. This is a kid that I think will come into the program and will benefit greatly from Alabama's strength and conditioning program. And it's just like you said, you were 100% right. Josh Jacobs. Josh came in when he used to wear the old number 28 and played behind Derrick Henry and all these guys. And, you know, if you remember when he was young, that was Derrick's, I think, last year, right? And he vaguely got in the game every once in a while. He used to wear 28 then, right? Vaguely got in the game. Fast forward 2 years from then, Josh Jacobs finally got on the field. And people forget this. Josh, when he transferred to number 6, Josh wasn't the starter. Damian Harris was the starter. Josh was his backup, right? That's what goes back to what I used to say about you don't have to come in and get 25 carries and rush for 100 yards every game. It's good if you do, right? But you don't have to do that. It's just when you get your opportunities, take them, right? Josh came in and made his bones when he got his opportunities. And end up, Josh was the first rounder and Damian was the second or third rounder. So you're 100% correct on that, man. Kevin Riley, this kid is a perfect example of a young man that's going to come in, get on that weight program, get stronger, bigger, faster, a familiarity already with the program, already with what's expected, already with the outside distractions of Tuscaloosa. Look for the future for this kid to be a key cob in our offense as well. Add him to another great line of running backs, and you have what Alabama has always had, a top outstanding running back room.
Alabama has always had that running back room, Coach. You say that, and
Yeah.
it's so true when we look at it. Alabama, in my opinion, has got to be running back you. And if you don't have them as running back you at the very least have them in the top 3 in terms of historics, right? Like there's just no argument around it. But do you want to know what's really surprised me over the previous 6 to 7 years, Coach? The quarterback recruiting and the quarterback play at the Alabama Crimson Tide. And that gets us into the last name being Julian Sayin. Coach, if I was to rewind the clock 15 years ago and told you, hey, you're going to have quarterbacks at Alabama like Bryce Young, Tua, Jalen Milroe, Jalen Hurts, and Julian Sayin, I think a lot of people would have been like, oh my goodness, like we've been winning with quarterbacks that are great. Jake Coker was great, not Bryce Young, right? Like in terms of Julian Sayin, the next in line of the 5-star blue chip quarterback that Alabama has got. And Coach, I love his ability. Whenever we're talking about Julian Sayin, I said this with Kyle. You can't teach the touch he has that he's able to put on these passes. That's God-given talent. From a coach's perspective, what makes Julian Sayin so special?
When I watch Julian's tape, he has a strong arm, but I don't think his arm is as strong as some of the other quarterbacks on our roster. But what makes him special is accuracy. Now, his accuracy is some of the best I've seen. And to me, his accuracy is just strictly accuracy on the ball. It's Bryce Young-esque, right? This kid will throw off his back foot, falling back, and still put the ball right in the receiver's hands, man. Extremely, extremely accurate young man. And I think that is going to be his key component. Not a super big guy, right? Not a howitzer as an arm. I think Eli Holstein may have the strongest arm on the team, believe it or not. And we hadn't seen him at all, right? But Julian Sayin played in a very similar offense with 5 wide principles, 4 wide principles, spread offense, very West Coast style, dink and dunk, then go over the top type offense. This kid's his accuracy is unmatched, right? If you look at him in the Elite 11, and I know that's throwing against air, but at least it does show you a kid's accuracy. And that's what I really watch for with the Elite 11. That's the only thing I want to see is the accuracy drills. I don't care that you can hit a wide open receiver with nobody covering him, but I want to know, did the receiver have to stop? Did he have to go back for the ball? Did he have to pause? I want to know your accuracy. And this kid's accuracy is off the charts. I will say this, though, if I could offer one caveat, and you can ask Coach Smoot this, Coach J this, and yourself, Ty. Quarterback out along with offensive, defensive line, and corner may be your hardest positions to transfer from high school to college, right? You rarely look around the country, guys. You rarely, and I mean rarely, see freshmen start at Division I programs. Now, it happens. Don't get me wrong. It happened here with Jalen Hurts. But freshman quarterbacks are very, very rare, right? Because the jump from high school to college, when you're playing that position, is exceptional, right? Quarterback is a very, very difficult position. For Julian to come in, first of all, for the kid to commit to Alabama with what we already have on the roster should tell you his mentality, right? The kid is obviously not afraid of competition, and he gets a nod from me from that anyway. If the kid is patient, if he's patient, he will be a first-team All-American here at Alabama. I will say this. Give the kid a chance to come in, compete with Dylan Lonergan. I apologize for if I'm saying his name wrong. Compete with Ty Simpson, and that will sharpen him, right? Go against Alabama's first team defense. Go against Alabama's second team defense. Get beat up a little bit. Take your W's and your L's, right? And learn from that. I think Julian have a bright future. I see Adam Lamparello. I apologize, Adam, if I say your name wrong. Adam was on Julian yesterday about he made a mistake, this, that, and the third. I respect your opinion, Adam. Shout out to you, my brother, Roll Tide. But I don't think he made a mistake at all. I think this kid knew exactly what he wanted to do. I think he understands that. Shout out to Rhonda. I think he understands that if I come into Bama, I learn, I wait my turn, the future's bright. At quarterback, all you need is one great year, right? They'll say you have to have these amount of games for the NFL to take you serious, blah, blah, blah. I watched Mac Jones come in and start 1 year, right? When Bryce went down the previous year, a game or two here or there, but I watched him be the true surefire starter for 1 year, and Mac Jones was a first round pick, right? So Julian comes in, learns, makes his bones, and may even beat some of those guys out on the roster. I don't know. But as far as his talent, it can't be. Julian's the best quarterback in the nation to me. And for me, it's not even close. It's not even close in the accuracy department.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Coach. And this is what I will say. You hit the nail on the head. I also think that Julian is going to push Ty and Dylan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think he's got that type of ability. Obviously,
Yeah.
he's going to come in and be behind the eight ball a bit because he doesn't know the system. He doesn't have that rapport with the wide receivers that Ty Simpson, Dylan Lonergan, Eli Holstein, and obviously Jalen Milroe have. But I don't think it's going to take him long. You hit the nail on the head, Coach. He committed to this school with this quarterback room with Jalen Milroe coming back and a 5-star quarterback there and 2 top 10 quarterbacks from last year's class. He was not dissuaded. He didn't care about that. He is here for competition. He embraces iron sharpens iron. As much as Ty Simpson and Dylan Lonergan are going to push him, and it's going to be great for Julian Sayin, I think Julian Sayin will have the same effect on both of them. And that's great for everybody involved, Coach. When we look at this, we've talked about the defensive side of Alabama's class. We've talked about the offensive side of Alabama's class. And to call back to something we were asked earlier about Georgia's #1 class, Georgia may have the #1 class in the nation, but are you at all disappointed with the names that we have presented with you over the past 2 days? Once again, ladies and gentlemen, hop down to the comments. Give me some fire emojis if you are elated with what Alabama signed. Coach, you know what time it is. As these moments wane down, we have got to talk about Michigan. And I want to give you the floor with a question. I think Michigan's a talented team. I think they're well coached. They're very disciplined. Here's my biggest question, Coach. Everyone I talk to, whenever they ask me what I think about Alabama, Michigan, every time I'm like, I think Alabama has a really good shot at this. They're like, oh, well, what about Auburn? This is what drives me up a wall, Coach. And I want you to speak about this because you're going to do so far more eloquently than I because of your knowledge of the game far exceeds mine. These are different running schemes we're talking about. Michigan's run scheme is far more analogous, in my opinion, to Georgia's, which Alabama had a lot more success stopping than that true gap scheme that Hugh Freeze and them are out there running. That's going to give you problems. It's the basis of creating assumptions and then making you pick the wrong assumption and taking advantage of that. Am I often saying that these different schemes, these different running approaches that Auburn employs and Michigan employs, that Alabama's defense is better suited to stop that run scheme of the Michigan Wolverines than they were to stop Auburn's? Is that a fair assessment?
Ty, you are 1,000, not even 100, 1,000% correct. Chat, do not let Ty Hayes fool you. This guy knows more about football than he's letting on. He is absolutely outstanding, and he exudes excellence. Do not let Ty fool you. I'm learning from this man, right? But yes, Ty is 100% correct. When you hear people talk about what happened against Auburn, when they ask that question, they automatically let people like me, Coach Mook, Coach Jay, Ty, Kyle, you automatically let us know that you're just a casual fan, right? No disrespect, but you clearly don't know the game. Auburn is built to give team defenses like ours problems, right? We've always struggled with those type of offense, the up tempo, fast pace, quarterback keeper, spreads you out. That's nothing new, guys, right? Coach Saban's defense has always sort of struggled with that type of offense, right? And again, it's a rivalry game, guys. We struggle at Auburn, always have, probably always will, right? So don't be fooled by that. Auburn has almost beat us in games at that place when they shouldn't have, right? I watched Bryce Young, a team that made it to the national championship against Georgia, go to Auburn and almost lose. We had to win in overtime down there. So don't be fooled, guys, right? It's a rivalry game, man. It happens. It doesn't matter how bad Auburn played against New Mexico. The one game they weren't going to play bad in, and that's against Alabama. And that's partially why they played bad against New Mexico, looking ahead, right? So when you hear fans talk about the Auburn game, if it's Michigan fans, bring up the Maryland game. If it's Georgia fans or Texas fans, I should say, bring up the Houston game. Everybody has one of those, right? If it's Georgia fans, bring up the South Carolina game. Everybody has one, guys. Everybody has a fall asleep game that great teams find a way to win. They don't lose those games. Don't matter what you got to do, you find a way to get the W. And that's what we did. So as far as us going into the Michigan game, Michigan runs a type offense that Alabama defends fairly well. Now they will give you some spread looks. They will line up in three receivers to one side, trips sets as we call it. They will show that, but that's just all window dressing. The formation does not dictate what they're going to do. They still going to run off tackle. They're still going to run downhill. They're still going to be power. Don't be fooled by the spread set. They still, to me, I love Blake Corum. I think individually, Blake Corum is one of the better running backs we've played against. Sometimes we go back and forth about Judkins and all these other. I don't think Ole Miss uses Judkins like this team uses Corum, right? I think Ole Miss uses Judkins in a up tempo way, in a hurry up, let me get the ball to him way. This team will come to the line of scrimmage still with 20 seconds on the clock, 10 seconds on the clock, and give him the ball off tackle. This team is patient. Me and Coach Jay and Coach Smook talked about it. They know who they are. They're not going to panic like Coach Jay said. They're going to run down here. They're going to try to bloody your nose. They'll take the 3rd and 4. They'll take the 3rd and 7 and still run the ball downhill. So that's what makes them dangerous. I'm not one of these guys that get so high about, oh, we're going to blow them out. I never do that. I never do that. You know, that's just me. You know, I'm the pessimist of the bunch by nature, and the truth is in the details, right? The truth is, here's the truth. Alabama has to play a solid game against this team, right? They'll be right in our wheelhouse. We should dominate this team based off what they run. But if we come out going 3 and out as we've been known to do, and punting the ball and keep giving those guys chances, you're gonna look up in the 4th quarter and you're gonna be in a fight, right? So we got to come out, play well on offense, do what we do, and don't help them, right? Let's not help them. This team, say what you want about them, but they made it to the college football playoff, right? Now, we all know their schedule was like wet toilet paper. We understand that, but they're there, right? And if we don't play well, they could cause us some problems, period. We should beat this team. They in our wheelhouse, right? Michigan does what we defend well, right? They're sort of like Georgia with the run game, different formations and different schemes, but a power set nonetheless. We should dominate this team on a regular day. But again, that's why they play the games. You come out messing around, we punt the ball, you keep giving them chances. We're going to be in a fight that we really don't need to be in and should not have ever been in. So give them their just due. But Alabama should dominate this team on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and there's a comment right here I wanted to hit on. BWH, thank you for tuning in, as well as everybody in here. Thank you all for tuning in. Y'all have been fantastic. You really make the show what it is and giving us talking points. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of your time. Time is an unbelievably valuable thing. And so spending it here with us means more than I could really tell you. But to answer this, BWH, Harbaugh, as I understand it, does in all technicality have a combo run scheme, right? Which allows him to kind of tap into some of the things, some very loosely speaking, some of the things Auburn and Hugh Freeze will do. Here's the problem, BWH, you are who you are. And I say that because I don't think that it's a winning recipe. I don't think it's conducive to success to be a certain way all year. And then when you face your biggest challenge, be somebody totally else, because that person's brand new, right? Like if I've been me all year and I've been practicing boxing, for instance, and I'm in the southpaw, and that's how I've practiced all year. If I get into my big fight and all of a sudden I switch up orthodox, I'm a brand new person. I haven't put myself in a position to be successful. So I don't think Michigan's going to totally change up their run scheme. Yes, Harbaugh does have a combo run scheme, but even in his combo run schemes, I find it to be far more based on power, Coach, than something like a Hugh Freeze and Auburn are doing. Is that a fair assessment? I just don't think they're going to switch it that much.
Let me say this to BWH first. Shout out to Ephraim Davis. You're right, Ephraim. No arm tackling, no high tackling. I couldn't have said it better.
True.
BWH, let me say this. You're right in the aspect that as far as scheme wise, the pulling pin with the guards, you're right in that aspect. But here's what I would debate you on, BWH. Auburn's offense is a quarterback versed, quarterback keeper type offense. Their whole principles, even on first and long, first and 10 to third and short, is to spread you out and beat you and get matchups in space. That's completely opposite of Michigan, right? Yes, they do pull their guards, they do pull and pin, as Coach Jay say, but Michigan's is more downhill, right? They don't feature their quarterback running the ball. JJ McCarthy will keep it, and I'm sure after watching the film on Auburn, they'll put a couple of, like Coach Ty said, they'll put a couple of extra those runs in, right? But they are who they are. They feature their running backs, Edwards, Corum. They're coming downhill at you, right? And if you want to be technical, it's a big difference, guys, in spreading out 5 wide, let the quarterback run the ball, getting catching an odd front, having more guys on the offensive line, having less guys in the defensive front, spreading this out so the front seven is not a true front seven than it is a team lined up in 12 personnel coming downhill at you. It's totally different, right? So I get your point as far as the pulling guards, but Michigan is who they are, right? Every team pulls at some point. Every team has plays where they pulls this, that, and the third, pulling pin. Michigan lives in that wheelhouse. Michigan lives in coming off tackle. These running backs will have, I saw a game where one running back had 19 carries and the other one had 14 carries. So that's how Michigan is. That's not Auburn this year. If they did, it'd be the quarterback having 19 carries. So it's a totally different scheme. I understand when you pointed out the similarities. We just have to play our box against Michigan. Play your box, dominate the front seven, and we'll be perfectly fine.
Now, Coach, let's take a top-down approach on this. Let's talk Alabama's offense versus Michigan's defense. The one thing I'll say about this Michigan defense, love their corner. Will Johnson, is it Will Johnson? Former 5-star command. That kid's a dog. Like, that's going to be a really fun matchup. NFL scouts are going to be at the edge of their seat watching whoever he's guarding, a future NFL wide receiver from Alabama against a future NFL corner. That's a treat, ladies and gentlemen. Let's enjoy that matchup, because from a football perspective, come on now, what more could you want? The best against the best. Come on. I love it. What I will say about Michigan's, they play very disciplined. Most of the time they play very disciplined. And Coach, I find in life, discipline can take you real far, right? I think college is a great analogy of this. When I got there, I had a professor tell me college isn't about being the smartest. It's about being the most disciplined. She's like, you'll find that some of the smartest people may not make it, but people that you don't deem to be like maybe as book smart, they might be far more disciplined, and they're going to do far better. And it turned out to be incredibly true. Look at me. I made it through, and that should tell you everything. Discipline is the key, right? It's not about brains. It's about discipline. I made it through. But when I look at Michigan versus Bama, Coach, they haven't played a quarterback like Jalen Milroe.
Right.
Like not even close to what I think we will employ. Talk to us about Alabama's offense against this Michigan defense, because I don't even have an offense that I can say is close, that I can talk about that Michigan played this year, that will be close to what they'll see. What do you think of that?
And they didn't. And you're right, Ty. They didn't. They hadn't seen a quarterback like Jalen Milroe. But I will say this: beware. I will say this: the truth is in the details. Remember this: Michigan knows that. They know they hadn't seen a quarterback like Jalen Milroe. I read just this morning that it's a quarterback on their roster who don't start. I forgot the young man's name. They put him at quarterback to replicate Jalen Milroe. He's sort of the same type of quarterback Jalen Milroe is. Very fast, can beat you run and pass. He may be a little bit down their depth chart. They've had him working against their first team offense, trying to give them a look of Jalen Milroe. So they're going to scheme to stop Jalen Milroe. You better believe that. They're going to scheme. And I'll go on record and saying this. You can call it what you want. This is the truth. Outside of Georgia, Michigan, and maybe even with Georgia, Michigan will be the best defense we've seen since Texas, since Georgia. Michigan got a very good defense, man. I watched those guys on tape. They fly to the ball. They're physical up front. I'm more impressed with their defense than their offense, right? Their offense, okay, whatever, right? To me, their defense is stellar. I'm telling you. Trust what I'm telling you. Their defense is stellar, man. So we have to be on our P's and Q's. That's why I say we can't get in that mode of three and out, right? I've seen one of the guys in the chat say we play our B game and still win. That's true, but I don't want to test that theory. I don't want to pick the playoff to test that theory. I rather play our A game, whip their and go on to the championship. This team has the potential on defense to cause us some problems if we don't be in our bag early, right? And this is a fact. This is the truth in the detail. No crimson glasses allowed, right? This is the truth. This team on defense is a problem, right? So we have to be sound in what we do on offense. We can't go out being afraid to use Jalen Milroe's legs. We got to be able to complete the intermediate passes and not give these guys short fields. You're right. Not put our punter in a situation where he's punting from our 20 across the 50, right? Giving them positive yards, as we call. So, we just got to play our game, man. We got to play our game. If you ask me what the biggest fear or concern I have, is just the consistency. I want that Georgia consistency. If we come out with that type of consistency, I don't have any worries, right? But we have been known to fall asleep a little bit, right? For a couple of series here or there. So that's my only concern. Do we come out and play with the same fire? Because it's like Coach Saban said. Sure, it's easy to get up for a Georgia game when everybody is against you. The whole world is against you. But now you've had some success. You've beaten them, right? Let's see how we respond in this game. When sure they're picked to beat us by 2 point, 3 points, whatever it is. But the world knows or figures Alabama's going to win this game, right? So let's take this team seriously. They pose a problem on defense, right? And let's get some consistency from Jalen Milroe. Continue to play well like you have been, right? And let's win this football game. To me, that's the truth within the detail.
Love it. And that's, Coach, exactly why I wanted to start with Alabama's offense against Michigan's defense, because when I look at this matchup, that's the part of this game that keeps me up at night. It is Michigan's defense because of their discipline. And Al Sanders, he says something interesting right here, talking about the stunts that they're going to try and utilize. Here's one thing I will say, Al. Proctor, for his young age, in my opinion, has actually handled stunts coming at him really well. It's been those really fast speed rushers that he's kind of had some adjustment with, which makes sense, right? He just never saw that type of speed. But I forget which game it was, Coach. You might know better than I. There was a stunt that they ran at Proctor, and he'd had a real tough first half. I think it was Tennessee. Tennessee. They ran a stunt at him, and he was picking up the hard stuff like ease. And that's where I was like, oh, this kid's going to be just fine. He's doing the hard stuff and making it look easy. He's just still getting up to speed. But great point, Al Sanders. No doubt about it. Coach, let's flip the script. We got to talk about Michigan's offense versus Alabama's defense, and we've already lightly done so. Everybody's talking about the running backs for Michigan, and I don't disagree. That's obviously where you have to start. But because of that, do you know, Coach, who's getting lost in the sauce? Not to you. You're not going to lose this. But JJ McCarthy, right? JJ McCarthy. If Michigan is to beat Alabama, I don't believe it's going to come from Edwards or Corum, as great as they are. It's going to come from JJ McCarthy. Name me the last time Bama got beat where the quarterback didn't have a spectacular game, right? It
Right.
just doesn't happen all that often. Coach, JJ McCarthy, we talk about Alabama, the offense Alabama has that Michigan hasn't seen anything like it. JJ McCarthy hasn't seen Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell. He hadn't seen monsters like that. How does Alabama's defense find the success against this Michigan offense?
I think our defense finds success against their offense by playing the exact type game we played against Georgia, being physical up front, being physical in the front seven, confusing him with coverage, and bringing pressure at times. Not necessarily on twists and stunts, but just bringing pressure off the edge, right? Not committing extra resources to the blitz, to the pressure, but just with the front four. Just with the front four. Just let Dallas and Chris be Dallas and Chris. We don't have to commit any extra resources to JJ McCarthy, right? I don't think that young man can beat us by sitting in the pocket throwing it. Now, he may prove me wrong, but just me watching tape, if I was going against Michigan, I would bet my money on my front four beating your front five, right? Not committing a lot of extra resources here and there and letting the chips fall where they may. Stopping Corum, stopping Edwards, stopping the wheel routes that I see them score on so many times, and put it in JJ McCarthy's hands, right? Let's see if this kid want to play football, right? Because if he takes off, we're going to punish him, right? If he takes off running, we're going to hit him. Now, if I'm playing against Alabama's defense and I'm thinking what is giving these guys trouble in the past, Michigan has no choice but to watch film on the games like the first half of Tennessee, like the second half of Arkansas, like the second to third quarter, the mid quarter of the Auburn game. They're going to have some design runs for JJ. They're almost compelled to, right? They're going to have some design runs for him. They're going to have some things that he do to confuse our linebackers, or at least try to, right? They're almost compelled when you play Alabama to find the things that they've struggled with and use that. JJ is a good athlete. I'm not going to take nothing from him. He's a good athlete. But I do not believe JJ McCarthy can sit in the pocket on 3rd and 7, 3rd and long, right? And constantly beat us. I just don't believe that. And I think that's what Coach Saban is going to play to. I think you have to stop Corum and Edwards. If you don't stop those two guys, then everything else will open up for Michigan, right? Those are the number one assets. Coach Smook and another young man had some back and forth on Twitter about whether those were the best combo of backs that we've seen. And while I don't think as a whole they're the best combo of backs, I do think Michigan uses them better than any team we've played against. I think Michigan knows who they are better than any team we've played against. To me, this Georgia team, their identity was sort of weird to me this year. It's almost like they didn't understand. They didn't know if they wanted Kendall Milton to be the star or the quarterback to be the star, right? On 3rd and long, sometimes back in the day, Georgia's coming downhill, period. Or Stetson Bennett's going to keep it and get it. You knew what it was. You just got to stop it. And we couldn't stop it. This year, it's like Georgia was sort of all over the place. They didn't know if they want to be a power run team or feature Carson Beck. They didn't know. This team knows exactly who they are. They run the personnel scheme to give you problems, any team in the country, and they're going to stick to what they know. So I do agree that they're not the best pair of running backs we've had as a whole. I can agree with Coach Smook on that. But I will say I think Michigan uses their personnel better than any team we've played this year outside of Texas. So it'll be a fight. It'll be a fight. But I do believe putting in JJ McCarthy's hands, make him beat you, and that's the key to success against them.
I completely agree, Coach. I think that Michigan's duo is unbelievably talented. I don't know if I'd put them over Judkins and Bentley at Ole Miss, or, I mean, I know the young man suffered an injury, so a lot of people, Jonathan Brooks out there at Texas was eating up college football. And then they have Baxter, who's a 5-star who looks like a 5-star. Coach, I don't know if you saw this today, but something really cool, not Alabama related, but we're all college football fans. We wish the best for all of these high school players as they take on their journey going to college. And that even extends to a Jonathan Brooks who goes to Texas. The young man had like 8 offers coming out of high school, and the only Division I Power 5 was Texas. He was about to win the Doak this year. Goes to show great evaluations can take you a long way. Now, Ephraim, he's got a great comment here. He says what Quinn did was get the ball out quickly. Here's the difference to me, though, Ephraim. And Coach, I want to hear your thought. One of the reasons why that's so effective for a Texas in particular is Quinn can get the ball out quickly, but they also know that A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy can go vertical on anybody. Like they have that type of track running speed.
Yes, sir.
I don't see Michigan being able to go vertical to punish Alabama in the same way that Quinn was able to with those quick passes, because that's what made it so dangerous for Sark, is you knew any second it's going to be quick. We're going to lull you to sleep, and then boom, we're going deep. What do you think about that, Coach?
You hit the nail on the head. First, let me say shout out to Gil Cruz, Road Tide from East New York, Brooklyn. Shout out to Gil. That's our brother, man. Much love to you, Gil. Shout out to you, man. Al Sanders and Adam Leporello. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And remember this, added to what you just said about Texas can go vertical at any time with those guys, which is 100% facts, as we know. They run up tempo to don't give you a chance to set what you really need to set. They don't give you a chance to sub package. They don't give you a chance to you just have no choice but to play base defense, right? And they win that matchup, right? Michigan doesn't do that a lot, right? I've seen a few times where they went up tempo against Penn State. They're not an up tempo team, so we'll be able to sub package. We'll be able to sub as they sub. We'll be able to ship personnel in. We'll be able to pattern match them. So on defensive side of the ball. So no, I don't fear them going deep, right? You're going to have to make me, and it's not that I'm disrespecting Michigan, because they very well could open with a 50-yard bomb just to throw us off, right? That's what I would do. So I'm not disrespecting Michigan. I'm just saying in the past of what I've seen on tape, you're going to have to do that to make me play you as such. I'm not going to come out and commit nickel resources to you until you make me see that you can beat us throwing the ball. So you're absolutely right, Ty. This is not Texas downfield by any stretch of the imagination. And I think Coach Saban's going to play them that way. Show me. If you want to beat me deep, show me. And then we'll adjust, right? But until then, you're 100% right.
Coach, it's hard to believe we've been going for almost an hour and 30 minutes. We'll call this the Christmas special for Alabama fans, because usually these are an hour, but we had to go over. We had to do a light conversation on Michigan, and this was an absolute blast. Coach, I want to give you some closing words. You've given us so much of your time, so much of your knowledge today. Where can the people find all of your great content outside of when they see you right here?
I'm still freshly new to Twitter. I am at JMHO Sports Talk. That's just my humble opinion. That's what it stands for. Just my humble opinion. At JMHO Sports Talk on Twitter, and right here on Bama Football with Kyle Henderson, the man himself. Shout out to Jan Sports. Shout out to at Coach Mook. Shout out to Around the Table Sports, Ty Hayes. You know what I mean? Shout out to everybody in the chat. And I'm very appreciative of everything you guys have done.
Yeah, Chad, I can't speak enough about you giving us your time. As I said earlier, time is the most valuable resource there is. And so it's not lost on me that so many of you have been in here for an hour and 30 minutes, where some of you might have family that have already flown in. Some of you may be off work and your family's in the other room, and maybe you're using us as an out. But at the end of the day, I still appreciate your time. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here, if I'm not on Bleacher Report, you can find me on YouTube at Around the Table Sports. We're just going to be talking college football. Yes, I bleed crimson. I am a diehard Alabama fan, but on Around the Table Sports, we talk all college football teams, and you'll still get your healthy dose of Alabama football. Before we get out of here, I have to give a quick shout out to Kyle. He is on vacation. Yeah. He is seeing his family. He is taking time off, because the man works harder than anybody I know, and he deserves the time off. But guys, be sure to drop the likes, hop down into the comments. If you're rewatching this tomorrow, hop down into the comment, let Kyle know one of your favorite episodes from this year, one of your favorite moments, because those interactions are massive, and Kyle deserves all the support he gets and then some. Drop likes, drop comments. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. It is absolutely free. And you're just not getting free content like this out there. It is unbelievable. Coach, I've had a great time with you today. Everybody out there, we have had a ton of fun. Dare I ask a score prediction for Michigan before we get out of here?
You know what, Ty? I'm very superstitious just from my days as a player. I mean, I'm a player that wore the same shirt for 3 years. I just watched it every game because I would have a good game. Even now, if my team is not playing well, hell, I'm gonna change shirts and all type. That's me. I'm sorry. I am the weirdo fan. Forgive me. I hate giving score predictions, man, because the last time I gave a score prediction, Clemson kicked our you know what, and I swore I would never give another prediction, and it's worked so far. But I will say this: Bama by 13. I will say that. Oh, and shout out as Ty just said, shout out to the TMH. I call him the TMH, the man himself, Kyle Henderson. That's the bro. That's the guy that's responsible for putting all of this stuff together. God is good. We appreciate him for that. Shout out to all my bros, man. I'm very thankful for all that. And let me say, shout out to my brother Kelvin Wyndham. This guy did 5 tours, right? He's a sergeant major here in Huntsville, Alabama. I hope you have a happy new year. Shout out to my brother Anthony Riggins. I think he was High Mountain, if I think he said that was his division. He was an 88 Mike. I've given him shouts out before. Shout out to both of those guys. I hope everybody in the chat have a great happy new year. You know, not too much eggnog. You know what I mean? Have a great Merry Christmas and make sure them kids have a good one. You know, it's all about the little ones and remembering that we all blessed. It could be worse, man. It could be worse. Shout out to everybody.
Yeah, 100%. And I think if y'all have noticed a theme, Coach is the angel, I am the devil. So once you put those kids to bed, break into the eggnog, loosen up,
Break it to
have a
me.
good time. Have a
Exactly.
good time. All
Exactly.
rules are off. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, y'all. We will see you very shortly. Thank you so much for spending your time. And until next time, that's it. See you. And
Roll
let me introduce
Tide.
you to my friend, the spinning wheel of doom on